So before we start our meeting, we're going to do something that's kind of a milestone in Gladstone, where we're going to swear in two critical people in the city of Gladstone. Our new police chief, John Schmerber, and our new fire chief, Rick Huffman. If the two of you could please come up. And the judge will swear you in.
One at a time.
What? Oh, one at a time. That's fine.
He's good, but not that good.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, John Schmerber, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the State of Oregon, and the Charter and Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone, and that I will, to the best of my ability, perform the duties of police chief for the City of Gladstone. Oh, I should have said Oregon. During my entire term of employment, so help me God. Congratulations. And I'm going to open it here for you. So one of these is yours, and one will go to the city council. So you may keep that. Okay. And I'll give this to the mayor. Here you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Next victim.
Do you want me to sign it ahead of schedule? Okay. Are you ready? Take a breath. Raise your right hand, please. I, Rick Huffman, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the State of Oregon, and the Charter and Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone, and that I will, to the best of my ability, perform the duties of fire chief for the City of Gladstone, Oregon, during my entire term of employment, so help me God. Congratulations. That's okay. I'll take care of the hard stuff.
It's not official till that signature.
Okay, that one is for you. This one is for the mayor.
Oh, no, I'm
All right. Congratulations, you guys. Welcome.
Picture time?
I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for May 14th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Good evening, everybody. Not a whole lot of people here. I hope you had a great, wonderful weekend, Mother's Day. It's American Craft Beer Week, so yay. Found a great brew pub down in Bend called Worthy. I highly recommend it. They have a telescope on the roof with an astronomer on staff. That was pretty cool. Our consent agenda tonight includes approval of the April 9th, 2019 regular meeting and April 30th, 2019 special meeting minutes, approval of the March bank balances, budget report for period ending March 31st, 2019, approval of the March check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports. Wait a second. Am I doing this right? It's March. Department head monthly reports for April 2019, An intergovernmental agreement, also called an IGA, for the lending of fire agency personnel within Clackamas County when personnel are unable to get to their normal reporting location. Our regular meeting agenda has just one item, Ordinance 1497, adding new Chapter 5.55 to the Gladstone Municipal Code, also called the GMC, titled Business Food Waste Requirements. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Neese,
Present.
Counselor Tracy,
Present.
Counselor Reisner,
Here.
Counselor Todd,
Here.
Counselor Mercero,
Here.
Mayor Stemple.
Here. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any agenda additions or corrections?
No.
All right. So the consent agenda, do we have any discussion? Or do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as corrected and as it's in its current form.
I'll second it. Motion was made by Counselor Tracy, seconded by Counselor Neese. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Any correspondence?
No.
Okay, we do have one letter. I don't see a Parks Board person here. Parks Board last night asked that a letter be read, so I'll do it now. To the Gladstone Mayor, Tammy Stemple, and Gladstone City Council from the Gladstone Parks Board, lack of park funding in the next budget. The Parks Board would like the City Council members and the Mayor to reconsider the lack of funding for the Gladstone City Parks in the next proposed budget cycle. Leaving our parks with nothing would be a terrible mistake. Not only does it leave the parks lacking for future needed projects, it leaves them with no emergency fund except to come back to the council to transfer funds from another account later. A lack of preparedness is a precursor to failure. Our parks, our taxpayers, and our neighbors deserve more than that. In listening to citizens' needs and desires for our parks, they want more, not less. The community spoke, and they are strongly in support of our parks. By not funding our parks' capital improvement, you would be going against the wishes of our citizens. Gladstone has 97 acres of parks, and to leave them with no funding is incomprehensible to this Parks Board. We are willing to put in the work to make our parks a better place, but we can't even file for grants with no funds to match or even help out. Most grant funding, as you all well know, is determined by how much time and money we are willing to match and or give. Without funds, we would potentially lose out on so many opportunities. Public Works has a current list of needed repairs to some of the facilities located at the parks, and with no funds, how can we even do that? This Park Board believes that if needed, our city will need to make do with the current number of employees and not plan to hire more until true funding for them can be met. To hire more people and leave our park system with nothing is not smart budgeting. We need to pay for what we have first, then add more. Smart budgeting is necessary for a town our size. We need more than ever to live within our means. Taking what's important away from our citizens feels like a ploy to gain additional funding, and that's not what Gladstone is all about. This is not a political game to us. We care about each other, our kids, our schools, and the health and welfare of our senior citizens. It is this council's responsibility to fund the basics first, and that must include our parks. Our Parks Board would like this council and mayor to consider funding the Parks Capital Improvement Fund with $100,000 per year. This was voted to submit at the Gladstone Parks Board May 13th, 2019. Alrighty, so we're going to move on to the regular agenda. Item 8, Ordinance 1497, adding new Chapter 5.55 to the Gladstone Municipal Code, titled Business Food Waste Requirements. Staff.
Reba will take and run with this one.
I have some guests with me tonight. I am Reba, your contracted borough manager, and we're going to talk about the new chapter to the municipal code. With me is Evan Polk with the county and Pam Peck with Metro. Also in the room are the owners of B&B Disposal. And I know you received the staff report and related materials, and during our previous discussions, there was a question asked about Metro's authority to mandate the policy. In the staff report, I listed out some reasons that I believe Gladstone is mandated and must adopt the ordinance. Additionally, I added a little section about the outreach that Metro has done to the businesses that they believe will be affected in the city limits of Gladstone. Another question was asked about the cost to the businesses to adopt this ordinance. It's unclear if there's going to be an additional cost or cost savings, but personally I believe that the affected businesses, if they can divert the food scraps from their normal trash, they could reduce that amount of trash. That could offset any additional costs. Metro's tipping fee is $31 less for the food scraps than it is for the normal waste, so that could help offset those costs. Also, because it's phased in, most of the businesses in Gladstone will not be affected until the second phase, which doesn't even start till March of 2021. Gladstone also has an agreement with Clackamas County to provide the outreach services, and they're going to continue to do that, and I briefly touched on that in the staff report as well. Those were all the questions that you had at the last meeting we talked about. Did you have any other questions for me or the county or Metro?
Well, is this a right-of-way issue, the garbage?
No.
Okay, I was just confused on whether that was right-of-way or not, or where did I miss that connection?
Solid waste usually ends up on my plate as well because it's a franchise.
Okay, got it.
It's not a right-of-way fee at all. You do charge a franchise fee to the solid waste haulers, of which you have one.
Okay.
And you have a franchise with them, I do believe?
Yes.
And I think it's at 5%?
I don't recall the number, but it was recently updated.
Yeah, I think it's 5. But it's a franchise, so that's why it's on my plate as well.
Okay. I was at the last meeting, and I'm really concerned with the language in the ordinance.
Which part?
The third whereas. I feel that's really contentious, and I don't remember leaving the last meeting with that feeling. I mean, I don't understand why we're instantly saying we don't recognize you, Metro, and I think if I read that, I would not be happy with.
Okay, I'm going to let the city attorney answer that. That was added by the city attorney.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Chad Jacobs from the City Attorney's Office. After your last meeting, because there were some questions about Metro's authority, Jackie and I had a discussion about the opinion of our legal opinion of our office as to whether Metro can legally require the city to legislatively adopt an ordinance. And after having done some research and worked on this issue quite a bit for other clients as well, it's the opinion of our office that Metro does not have the legal authority to require a separate local government to legislatively enact an ordinance. Metro certainly has authority, as they have in their rules and as Reba outlines in the staff memo, to withhold funding if we refuse to do that. And so in talking this issue through with Jackie, her and I concluded that sort of balancing out the interests of the various council members in the discussion last time, that we would add this whereas clause just to recognize that even if Metro doesn't have the legal authority to do this, the city, under its own home rule authority, can say we're going to adopt this policy and we're going to enact this ordinance and still comply with Metro's requirements in that form. By doing that, it leaves open the door, should Metro down the road decide to try to require you to legislatively enact something else, that you have not committed yourself to doing that. Even if you don't like that language and you want to take it out, I still think that opportunity exists for you to take a stand against Metro forcing you to do something down the road in the future. Honestly, this language was added as a mechanism to try to balance out the discussion that we had at the last meeting, to try to basically appease everyone, to make sure that this was something that everyone could support if you wanted to do so.
Well, and because most of the businesses in Gladstone are not affected till phase 2, many other cities are going to adopt, I believe. So council can always change their ordinances as well in the future, correct?
Yeah, you can absolutely, if, for example, if Metro decides they're no longer going to provide funding for this, and you said, well, that's a deal breaker for us, and you wanted to repeal the ordinance, you could then repeal the ordinance as well.
In the minutes, it notes from the last meeting that there would be possibly 25 to 30 businesses affected.
Right, at the beginning of phase 3, there's 3 phases. So over the course of phasing in over the 3 years, at the end of that time, there could be that many. Businesses do start and stop. If they start producing more food waste, if their businesses increase the food waste, they would be included in those phases as they go along. So in total, when everybody is included, the phase 3 has begun, that's how many Metro and the county believe could be affected by the ordinance. It's really hard to say until Metro and the county goes to see the business and they start doing the analysis who exactly is affected. If somebody produces 240 pounds of food waste, they're not included. If they decide that they're going to start adding catering on, they may start producing more food waste and be included in that phase. Does that make sense or answer your question?
Well, I kind of understand that, okay. But it also says that if you are a affected business, I believe, you need to be actually scrapping 1,000
pounds?
1,000 pounds per month?
If as a business you are already generating 1,000 pounds of food waste per week, then you would be covered under the first group of businesses.
And the 25 to 30 that you're talking about all meet that qualification?
No, so that's the first group. The second group of businesses is any business that generates over 500 pounds per week of food waste. And then the third group is businesses that generate at least 250 pounds of food waste per week, which is on average going to be at least one full roll cart just full of food waste. Any business that generates less than that would not be covered by this policy at any time.
Add one thing. It only affects the waste that they're collecting in the back of the kitchen. So in other words, so think of in a restaurant, they're in the kitchen, they've got some bins there, and then there's the customer facing, like maybe where a customer scrapes their plate or something like that. Only the food waste in the back of the house would be impacted by that. So the idea is that a business can, basically be, as they're prepping food and things like that, putting the food waste in that container. So it's that amount that we're looking at, because that's where the most food waste is in the region, is in the back of houses, restaurants, and other food businesses around the region. And so that's really where we're trying to capture where that concentrated amount of food is.
And that won't eventually escalate to every bit of food waste? Because everything that starts out as one thing always turns into something else.
Well,
I'd hate to see the waiters and waitresses and everybody else separating napkins and crust from bread.
And that's why it's the idea that it's the back of the house food waste. And then the other thing, as Evan noted, until we really start, so right now all these businesses are mixing all their garbages in one container. So until all we're really talking about is the food garbage is going to go in a separate container, and then they'll see how much is in that container. For some small coffee shops and even some drive-through chains and things like that, they actually may not have that much waste in the back of their kitchens, because a lot of restaurants now, things come in kind of prepped, and they optimize. They don't want to be wasting. I just want to say that we do a lot of work with the restaurants. That's not their goal. They are using as much of their product as they can. So there may be even some of these that aren't at the level of that 250 pounds, those really small devices.
And while we can't predict future, the ordinance right now does not cover the front of the house.
That's right.
So why don't you just go with volunteer?
Like me to answer?
Please.
Yeah,
and I've got a follow-up.
We've had a voluntary program for about 15 years in the region, and that has not, and there's still a tremendous amount of food waste that's going to landfill. It's the biggest thing that's in our waste that we send to landfill, so we're not capturing those benefits. And the other thing is we did a lot of dialogue with businesses around the region, and many of them are chains, many of our grocery stores and many of our restaurants, both local and national chains around the region. They really appreciate having consistent services. They can train employees one way, and things are consistent for them in the back of the house. So part of this is about having consistency that also allows us to more efficiently collect this waste. So with a voluntary program, you might have a business here, and a business here, and a business there. So it's really hard to set up an efficient collection route to collect that food waste. So making a mandatory program allows it to be more efficient, would allow costs to be lower over time than just grabbing little bits of waste here and there, and meets a need from the business community that things are consistent within the metro region for them in regard to.
Is there not some larger businesses that are currently participating in the city as well?
Safeway is already
Right.
We are 1,400 businesses around the region that already participate. Safeway has an arrangement with somebody else, a company called Divert, that helps them with that. But many businesses in the region, they simply can't participate unless their city works with their hauler to provide that service for them.
Why is that? Why do we have to mandate B&B and say, you've got to do this now, versus them just volunteering to do it?
I think and this is just my personal belief, if we start mandating, that makes it more efficient for B&B, because then they don't have one customer here doing it, one customer over here. Then you've got one truck running from this location to this location. If they can pick up all along the way, it makes their collection more efficient, which does help keep the cost down of the collection, versus running one truck to pick up two customers. If you run one truck to pick up along the entire route, that's a cost savings on that truck, and it also reduces the tipping fee of the other truck collecting non-food waste.
So you have, and from this information, you've got one truck that's going to be picking up the food waste, because it can't be mixed with the other stuff, correct?
That's my understanding.
Well, I can add a little bit more nuance there. One of the things that Clackamas County has been asking Metro to take a look at is the possibility of allowing garbage collection companies that are farther away from the transfer station, that would include potentially Gladstone and Oregon City, to have collection done with the yard debris trucks instead of a separate truck. And we don't have a decision on that yet, but Metro has told us that they're willing to take a look at that in order to keep costs down for collection for cities like this one that are farther away from the transfer station.
We've got a transfer station just across the river.
Right, and
yeah.
right now Metro doesn't accept commercial food waste there.
Yard debris.
Right.
Okay.
So if a yard debris truck can pick up a couple extra customers, which is the number you're talking about here in Gladstone early on, is like a couple customers. If that can be picked up in a yard debris truck and taken to Metro South instead of being taken all the way to Metro Central, then that could help B&B leasing Gladstone Disposal with their costs.
So
it's something we're looking at.
Do you not have the process in place already to manage this program? You're still working out the kinks on that, or do you have it all?
To allow for the yard debris trucks to take it?
For the hauling of it and the whole process, where you're taking it and how you're transferring it. And
the region has adequate infrastructure for handling commercial food waste, but Metro South has been a small constrained site for many years, and so historically they just haven't offered food waste. You should probably answer that question though.
Yeah, so there's a plan to add food waste down the line at Metro South. Pride Disposal Services is building out food waste acceptance in their in Sherwood area. So there will be more locations in the region than just Metro Central going down the line, but that's why we have the access to services payments at the beginning of the program, because we recognize it's a longer trip to get to Metro Central with waste that was currently going shorter haul to Metro South. So Metro is picking up that additional disposal cost as part of the efforts to really help contain that cost.
Right. And you don't know how long that's going to last, and you don't know how many customers are involved. That was my follow-up, correct? I mean, you haven't gone to the restaurants in town and sat down with them, as you mentioned. Once we get this ordinance, you're saying, well, we're going to go talk to the restaurants. Don't you kind of have the cart before the horse? Shouldn't you go talk to the restaurants and say, see, how much food waste are you producing, and if it is 250 pounds or 300 or 1,000, hey, this is what could affect you.
I think that Metro has reached out to the National Restaurant Association and got some feedback from them. I think most restaurants are a member of that. I personally haven't out there, so.
It's the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. So
Okay.
we've been working with the Oregon Restaurant Lodging Association and the Food Producers Association and the Ranchers Association really from the beginning in developing this. So one of the first things we did with the Restaurant Association is they helped us to do a survey of businesses outside of Portland. And that survey included businesses, and this was a randomly found, there was a survey conducted for us. And we surveyed businesses that currently were doing composting with their food and businesses that weren't to understand. And I have some of the stats from that survey somewhere in my pile of documents. But in that survey, we found 45% of businesses were in favor of a mandatory program. 15% had no strong concerns and would comply. 30% had some concerns, and those are concerns that we work to address in the policy development. And 10% of those were opposed. Subsequent to that, we did more specific meetings and outreach with many, many restaurants. I don't have the full list, but we really tried to hit all of the chains to communicate with them. There's many chains and individual ones in the region. We also did mailings to, based on information that we pulled, to every restaurant we thought would be impacted by this. So if a restaurant didn't exist a couple of years ago when we did that mailing, they may not have received it, or if our list wasn't as complete. But this is actually one of the more extensive engagement processes that we've conducted in terms of engaging the business community and really engaging local governance for over a 3-year process. So we did make a really good effort to be reaching in and finding out what businesses were thinking about.
Councilor Neese has a question.
with the business in Gladstone.
Sorry, I don't mean
No,
to.
you pretty much covered it, but
Oh, okay.
on some things I'm still not sold on this because I had a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I always separated everything out. And the bottles especially on the syrups. Now, once a week, they would come in and pick it up, but it was only once a week, and sometimes the container would be full and running over.
A container of glass? Okay. So that's the kind of technical assistance that our program provides. We help businesses address some of the collection problems that they have and then work with the collection company to troubleshoot those.
My big concern, from what you were just saying, is you went to the McDonald's, the chains, which we have one here in town, and Taco Bell. But it's the High Rocks, Stanley's Corner, Vogie's, and Graffers, the new pizza place down the street.
Ice Shave Place.
Right. Those, and I mean, it's well known that your mom and pop restaurants struggle, and more fail than survive. And this ain't going to help them.
We absolutely recognize that it's an industry that operates on thin margins. They're subject to a lot of regulation. That's why we get a lot of engagement. We did talk to a lot of individually owned restaurants as well.
Did you in Gladstone?
Well, I think Rebus captured the ones that got noticing, and there may be some new ones since.
Well, getting a notice, and I mean, and I'm not a small business owner, and haven't been for like 40 years, but Commissioner Neese has been, and she, and from talking with her, her time is valuable, and she put in a lot of hours, and getting a notice probably went into the shredder. Would be my guess for most of these. I mean, I've talked to a couple, and they weren't aware of what you guys are wanting to do. And I plan on doing some more outreach to these that. To say, hey, this is what Metro wants to do.
And the other thing adding to that, because you're saying, not this quarter, but then the second quarter is when you're going to start charging. And, that...
Charging?
Well, didn't you make a statement about the
Phase 1 and Phase 2?
And 2?
So Phase 2 is not until a calendar year 2021, March of 2021, so almost 2 full years from now. So my thought was that there does need to be some more outreach, and I think as this gets adopted, the restaurants here in town that may not have the time right now to do that, of course, I haven't owned a restaurant here in town, but I'm sure you talk with other restaurant owners, word will get out about this, and I don't think that if a business that isn't affected until phase 3 even, that contacts the county's not to say, no, we're not going to help you. I'm sure some time can be made to assist those businesses that are not mandated at this moment, but will be in the future. And I think it will get easier to understand this as this gets phased in. And because it doesn't affect Gladstone for 2 years, I think a lot of these issues will be solved, but that's just my personal opinion, because we've got 2 years.
We're a small community, and businesses
Right.
are going to come and go here.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean they're going to be in existence in 2 years.
No, and I think we need to hear from the businesses
I think so, too.
sooner rather than later on this one. And I'm not comfortable with this at this point.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we push this back maybe till next month. I'm a huge recycler, but I'm also a small business owner as well. I understand B&B leasing, we have a landscaping company, and we have to go and pick up things, and we can't hop around town either. It's just there's too many what-ifs with this and potentials. And we're not, 2021, we still have some time to really, talk about how it affects our businesses, not just chain businesses, but
agree with you.
these little guys all up and down the
Is that
street.
okay?
So I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, so the Metro's requirements require the city to have a program in place by July 31st of this year.
Okay.
The consequence, again, of not doing that would be that you would not receive funding.
We hardly get any funding anyway.
Yeah.
That's exactly my thought, too.
And so you have time, and you certainly have time before Metro's requirements kick in, and then you have time after that before most of the businesses within Gladstone would have to comply anyways. There is some language in the Metro regulations that if the city is working in good faith towards adopting the program, that they can also continue to provide funding for the little bit of funding that you do receive. So I think if you're working with Metro trying to address these concerns, there may not be those consequences, but the ultimate consequence would be a loss of funding.
Okay, well, we have a motion made by Councilor Todd. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have seconded in tandem by Councilor Reisner and Councilor Neese. Any further discussion?
Well, I'm really hung up on this volunteer thing. So you say there's only 1,400 in the metro area. So what kind of outreach? Are you out knocking on doors? Well, you guys maybe, but what about Metro? Are they just shoving it down our throats?
Well, the county gets the funding that you receive from Metro. You give to the county underneath an IGA to provide this outreach on behalf. Correct?
In the parts of Clackamas County where business food scrap collection is available, we do fairly robust outreach in person with businesses that we think would be good candidates for that service. Because Gladstone doesn't offer that service right now, we have had no reason to talk about that with businesses. So that's why you don't have businesses that have had interactions so far that have been more significant than notifications and casual conversations.
Okay, well, that'll be something that we'll make a bigger effort for.
Well, I'll be making
Sure, in
some
the
phone
next
calls
month.
over the next month, for sure.
So we'll talk about how we can engage the businesses more. So we have a motion.
Thank
We
you.
have a second. 2 seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're holding this off. Sorry about that, but thank you
Oh.
for coming up.
Yeah.
We just have quite a few
Oh.
concerns.
Yeah.
You have time.
Happy to help.
I have the tiniest little garbage can. I want everyone to know that.
You might- I talked with our attorney about the ordinance itself. It has some major problems.
So we'll talk about it.
So you might want to chat with Chad.
We don't
Yep. All right.
Chad.
So, the next item is business carried forward, which is Tri-City Good Neighbor Agreement Joint Work Session Briefing by Public Works Director Jim Wynot.
Thank you, Mayor. So Tri-City Good Neighbor with basically Clackamas County Water Environment Service is putting together a good neighbor program similar to what Kellogg treatment plant did over in Milwaukee, where they put some money into a fund and for certain projects. So they outlined a corridor up and down the Clackamas River, and Oregon City and Gladstone have potential to receive some money from that. They are holding a work session next Tuesday at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. Excuse me. You have the agenda in your packet, and I encourage you all to go. The City of Oregon City Commissioners will be there, and the Clackamas County Water Environment Services commissioners will be there as well, and talk about the details of it. But the city of Gladstone stands to receive approximately $50,000 a year that would go into a dedicated fund for these projects, which would be part of the Parks Fund.
Awesome.
So
It's a great
hopefully
program.
we can see you all there next Tuesday and have some good conversations.
Great. So during item 8, I didn't have business from the audience. We've moved it to next month, but if you guys would like to speak during business from the audience on those topics, that would be fine. So next is business from the audience. Who do we have? And we have 3. You have 3 minutes.
We have 2. The first one is Bill Osborne.
3 minutes.
Hi, Bill Osborne, live here in Gladstone. You've heard me talk a few times about the right-of-way fees and taxes and other things in Gladstone, especially when utility rates go up, and I understand that some of those utility rate increases are necessary and they're coming down the pipeline, as well as other increases. So what I'm here tonight to talk about is the right-of-way fees. That was a tax that was imposed on the residents of Gladstone, not the businesses, because we pay it. Just because you can. It wasn't something that was needed, like an increase because sewer rates have went up, water treatment, or anything else. We currently have one of the highest tax brackets around in Gladstone. I believe it's just over $20 per 1,000 of assessed value that we pay when compared to other cities like Westland, like Oswego. The only city that pays more in property taxes is Portland, and they've got some areas that are up to almost 22. Westland, Lake Oswego, Oregon City are all about $18. So what I'm here to ask, because I've been having conversations with people about trying to get rid of this right-of-way fee, is I'm here to ask you all to repeal the right-of-way fee. It isn't something that was necessarily needed. It was an extra tax just to add into things. And with increases in utilities and the increases we've had, stormwater, the implementation of the stormwater and the doubling of it, it just weighs heavy on people. And affordable housing is a big thing right now. And if you can't afford to keep your utilities on because of the high taxes, you don't really have a house, you just have a shack. So what I'm asking is that the council here would take it upon themselves and repeal this tax, because I don't think it is good for Gladstone. It's certainly not good for the residents. And maybe it would send a message to some of the other cities that are just squeezing residents for extra money just because they can. It's another thing also that will help to build trust with the people, so that when you do increase fees, we know that there's a reason. I'm sure if somebody asks why the water rates need to go up if there's been an increase, you can show that the treatment costs went up, and that's just passed along. So again, I would ask that you guys would consider repealing the right-of-way fee, and that's my business tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Robert Patterson.
I have notes on my computer, so please forgive me. My name's Robert Patterson. I'm the executive director of Emerald Alley, a small Portland-based think tank whose mission is simply to love poor people. Now, I have 2 reasons for appearing before you today. The first is to talk infrastructure. I know that it's a goal of this council to make investments into Gladstone's infrastructure over the next 2 years. And the work that I've done with Emerald Alley has led me to cross paths with Michael Hanna, who directs Municipal Broadband PDX. He's been working very hard to bring municipally owned broadband to Multnomah County. Now, I believe that municipal broadband should be one of Gladstone's goals for the future. For those of you who don't know, broadband networks are in demand by users who run modern video and audio applications, which are increasing bandwidth requirements by 40% a year. Now, many communities are content to let Comcast, CenturyLink, and other private businesses take the lead on this. Unfortunately, that puts citizens at their mercy. There is an alternative, however, one in which broadband services are owned by the city. Municipally owned broadband is cheaper, creates competition, and boosts economic development. And Mr. Hanna can speak to these things with much greater authority than I can, and he's expressed interest in coming here on June 11th to speak with you more about it. The second reason I'm here is to talk to you about the need in the Oak Grove, Gladstone area for an emergency homeless shelter. Now, the City of Portland's next budget dedicates nearly $39 million of the discretionary general fund dollars to direct homeless services. That's the largest amount ever and represents a significant increase over just a few years ago. And that doesn't count the $10 million spent by other general fund agencies like Portland Police, Portland Fire, and Portland Parks. Now, Mayor Wheeler, speaking to the Portland Tribune editorial board last Tuesday, remarked that, quote, Washington County and Clackamas County have exactly 0 shelter beds that are full-time funded by the government. And therefore, if somebody is homeless, they're definitely going to find their way to Multnomah County or to the city of Portland. So that's a regional conversation that we need to have, end quote. I love to disagree with Mayor Wheeler, but on this one, I think he might be spot on, except for this. The homeless in this area don't necessarily find their way to Portland. Many of them stay right here in Clackamas, tucked away under groves and alleys, under awnings and tarps. I believe that a unique opportunity exists with the relocation of the Gladstone Library. So let me ask you this. What barriers exist to repurposing the old library into Gladstone's first emergency homeless shelter? I believe that funds are available through HUD's Emergency Shelter Grants Program to convert that building into a state-of-the-art shelter that could also act as a portal to vital services of employment, health care, and housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a card?
I don't.
Okay. Could you get information to Tammy?
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
Is this
please.
Michael Hanna from Multnomah County?
He lives in Multnomah County, I believe, yeah.
Does he work for Multnomah County?
He does.
Is it the same Michael Hanna that works
I think
for
so,
Multnomah
yeah.
County? Okay.
Yeah, he, I know he works for the county, and then in his
also-
spare time,
right,
he's
he
working
works
with
for the union.
municipal broadband.
Okay,
PDA.
thank you. I just wanted to find out if that's who it was.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thanks.
We do have one more.
Okay, next.
Les Poole.
Good evening. Les Poole. I live on Cornell Place. I haven't spoken here in a while. The new faces are fitting in, I hope. A couple things are on my mind. One is I'm really pleased with what's happening down the street with the Civic Center. It's moving along. They're turning the dirt. And what I'm pleased most about that entire project was that there was a budget and some careful lessons of the past applied to that project, and I think we're getting a good value. And when you talk with folks in town, sometimes they still think the library is going to be with City Hall. There's a little confusion out there, but ultimately the goal is to replace this building with a library. So hopefully we can get that word out more to the folks that aren't on the inside. The other subject I had is something that's come up several times in the Planning Commission, and while I'm on the Planning Commission, I'm not speaking for that entity. I'm speaking simply from my own observations. And that issue is parking. Gladstone's growing, we're infilling. There's been a few occasions where, to accommodate projects, parking is sacrificed. And I asked during the some of the planning for downtown, what is the value of a parking place? I mean, if I'm going to set up a business in a community, one of the factors for what I'm going to do and how it's rated is parking. So I think parking is something that's easily going away, and we'll pay for it in the future. So let's keep that in mind. And certainly things are growing like mad out there. So folks are coming here. We're not going to be Mayberry forever. It doesn't mean we need to turn into a 5 or 6 story downtown, but certainly folks are coming here, and I'm just real concerned about how we handle traffic and parking in general. So let's keep that on our radar. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. All right, well, next is business from the council, so we can start with Councilor Ripley.
I don't have anything.
Councilor Neese?
No.
Oh, yes, we have the Kiwanis Spaghetti Dinner coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello.
There's flyers on the back table, so just come this Saturday evening, and hope to see you there at the Gladstone Senior Center. And it supports Kiwanis, and it'll be And it's a nice spaghetti feed.
It's
there.
for scholarships, I believe.
Yes.
Yep.
And it helps with the Key Club.
Key Club.
Gladstone High School.
Counselor Tracy?
Nothing for me.
Counselor Reisner?
No, I better not say how many, because I'm always... One more. So, in our budget report for ending, the approval for March check register, we are using Oregon Accreditation Alliance through, or the police department is. And I've didn't bring it up then. I just want to make but would be amiss if I didn't mention that I'm not a big, I don't want to say fan, that's not the right word, but I have concerns with that organization, and I just need to, I've stated them in the past, and I just want to, I've talked with the chief, and she knows my concerns, and she's told me as to her thoughts, but I just want to lay it out that though I fully agree with having a third party take a look at our different departments and operations throughout the city, be it police, fire, public works, financial, even the court system. But this particular organization, again, I have some concerns. The second thing that, switching kind of gears, and what Mr. Osborne brought up, I mentioned it I think either last month or the month before in regards to the right-of-way fees, and I was asking if the city pays those, which I was told yes.
Yes.
But it's not reflected on our bill, whereas most of the other bills it is. And so back when we were discussing this, most of you probably weren't here, I think. Commissioner Mercer was probably the only one here when we adopted that. I supported it because I was, well, I guess for a better, there's not a better word, upset that Lake Oswego Tigard wasn't paying any more than what they did. And so this was one way that we got more money from them. But even though there was discussion about pass-through this and that, I didn't realize how much our citizens were going to be paying. And it's this reason why I did not support the levies, is that our citizens are paying almost $900,000 if you look at franchise fees, and then on top of it, the $1 million plus for police and fire. So it had nothing to do with me not supporting the police or the fire. It just, I feel, we were hitting the taxpayers twice. So I think we should maybe visit this. Okay. And would like us to put it on
the agenda
in the future.
Okay, we can do that.
I have a question, Counselor. So when you say revisit this, are you saying revisit the right-of-way fee structure as
or the concept?
As
I would
resolution?
Say, I would say the concept.
Okay. So not necessarily.
Great question.
Well, I'm just trying to get
No.
Because I think when you're talking about Tigard and Lake Oswego, are you not discussing the right-of-way fees that were not charged to them for
when the pipe was
right
put
for
in.
the pipeline?
Right. So we only ended up with like about $180,000.
Yeah, it was probably not a really good deal for us.
No.
Lake Oswego, not Lake Oswego, West Lynn got like $5 million.
Yeah, they did.
Okay,
You're
so
right.
I just for clarity. So thank you for that.
Definitely put this on the agenda in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure. I'm good. All right, Councilor Mercero?
I'm good.
All right, well, the only thing I have is the Images of America Gladstone issue is out and for sale, and Linda Cosgrove came with 3 copies, which all were sold immediately. But she has more at her house, so if you would like some, let her know. Or let everybody else you know. It's a great book. Cool. It's got some amazing pictures. This city has a lot of history that we need to celebrate. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Just one
Nope.
more thing real quickly, and then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Let's wish Councilor Mercereau a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Be 25.
Yeah.
It's
and
hell
on,
to be over 100.
and on that note, I'll make a motion for us to adjourn.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Neese, seconded by Counselor Tracy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:16 PM.
Got it.